So in this little section, it'll just be about different aspects of intelligence and intelligence testing. It'll kind of just be the remainder of the just important themes that you need to know. So here, this is called the Flynn Effect. If you look at this chart, it's showing you that over time, if you see across the x-axis, as time has passed, the average IQ score is increasing. And so what we learned from the Flynn Effect is that over time, people are scoring better on IQ tests. There's all kinds of thought behind why that might be, whether that is, we have more access to technology and that's influencing how we score, or whether that's nutrition, that we are having better access to, healthcare and nutritious foods, and maybe we understand there's more understanding of just even childhood development over time, and how do we nurture children over time. And so there's all kinds of explanations, but the Flynn Effect tells us that over time we're actually increasing as a society our intelligence. The next slide just shows us about different types of tests. So tests could be aptitude or achievement. This isn't necessarily focusing on intelligence tests right now, but just different types of mental abilities. And an aptitude test would tell you, it would be a predictive type of test. It's focused on the future. It's going to tell you if you are ready for something, or it's going to tell you how well you might do in some area in the future. An aptitude test might be like, the GRE is called the Graduate Readiness Exam, and it helps undergraduates know if they're prepared for graduate school, and it helps graduate schools determine who is ready to go into their graduate programs. Another aptitude test, career aptitude tests, tell you what type of career would be best suited for your abilities, and so it's focused on, future abilities. The ASVAB is a test that students take when they are interested in then moving on and going into the military. And so the ASVAB would place you based on how well you do. It would give you a route or a path that would, take you on through the military and what you are ready for, or what, and so those are aptitude tests. They predict how well you will perform in something in the future. An achievement test is focusing on the past. This would be like a math test you might take in school. Have you developed that skill, and have you mastered it? Or a Spanish test. Do you understand the vocabulary? Have you learned it? Have you mastered the vocabulary? It might be a science test. Have you gained the knowledge that you need, or have you understood the content up until this point, and have you mastered that? And so it's focusing on the past. What have you learned? Next is just understanding what makes a good test. A good test should be reliable, meaning you would get consistent scores if you took it multiple times. If you took an IQ test and once you scored a 115, and the second time you scored a 70, you took it a third time and you scored a 130, that would be very unreliable. You would be going from one score telling you you are just a little bit above average to an intellectual disability, to the third time you are in the 2% gifted. And if you had something like that, that would be very inconsistent, and you would not really be able to understand where you are. Same thing with the ACT. The ACT is a reliable test. If you were to take it multiple times, you'll probably score within a few points. It's very unlikely that you'll score a 32 once and then you'll jump down to a 17 and then you bump up to a 25. A reliable test will give you consistent scores each time. A valid test would be a test that the results match what it says it will test. So if someone scores poorly on a math test, but they scored poorly on the math test because they couldn't read the instructions, well then it's not testing their math abilities, but their reading comprehension. And so a valid test would be, it's testing what its purpose. The score reflects what you know or what you're able to do in whatever that objective was. Just two different understandings of intelligence. Fluid intelligence and crystallized intelligence just have to do with a difference in mental ability. Fluid intelligence would be reasoning, would be problem solving, whereas crystallized intelligence would be an understanding of facts and knowledge. Now, there is a difference over time how you hold onto and how well you are able to remember and do these things over time. And so this chart will show you and give you an understanding over time what happens to fluid and crystallized intelligence. You can see over time, as you age, you get better at both until about, middle adulthood-ish, where if you follow fluid intelligence, this is that the reasoning, problem solving, it starts to dip and to fall. Into old age, the problem solving ability starts to decline. However, crystallized intelligence, which is that knowledge for facts, though, that still has a pretty steady increase over time. And so that's interesting about intelligence over time. And the last thing that you'll need to be aware of is just how heritable intelligence is. And so basically what that means is how likely is intelligence coming from your environment and how your parents or your grandparents or your family and your friends nurtured you? Are you intelligent because of your environment? Or does intelligence come through genetics, or was it passed down to you biologically? And so if we look, let's start at the bottom. It shows us the correlation between people who were in the same environment versus people who have similar genetic components, and how close is their intelligence. If it's correlated and their intelligence is similar, then that's likely the result is based on either their environment or their biology. And so if you start at the bottom, these are unrelated people. They are raised together though. So adopted siblings have no genetic similarities. This is not no correlation between their intelligence. They've got no similarities in their intelligence. And as you work your way up, these are siblings, and so it's starting to increase. They have some similar, they have the same parents, and so it's starting to increase. These are fraternal twins, even more. The correlation is even stronger. So that opposite sex fraternal twins, same sex fraternal twins, starting to get stronger. Identical twins raised together, very, very strong. So not only do those twins have the genetic component that is similar, but they also have since they're raised together, they've been in the same environment. So, but that's hard to tell since they were in the same environment. But if we look at identical twins who are raised apart, they have that same genetic component, but yet they were raised in different environments. They still have very incredibly high similarities between their intelligence. So what that tells us is that intelligence doesn't have a huge connection to our environment, although it is important, but a lot of our intellectual ability is genetic. And so that's what's really important to understand about the heritability of intelligence. And that's really it for intelligence on these aspects. If you have any questions though, feel free to reach out.